For Wednesday morning here in the FCT, and of course we're here standing by with the brief, so let's go straight into it. Security threats are evolving at a rapid pace, and so are the methods used by criminal and terrorist groups. A recent United Nations warning that terrorists are increasingly exploiting technologies such as drones and cryptocurrencies to strengthen their operations has renewed global concerns about how innovation can be turned into a tool for violence. It also raises important questions about the readiness of governments, security agencies, and technology stakeholders to respond to these emerging threats. The growing use of digital technologies by terrorist networks highlights the need for stronger cybersecurity frameworks, better intelligence coordination, effective regulation, and greater collaboration across borders. As technology continues to shape everyday life, finding the right balance between innovation, security, and public safety has become more critical than ever in the fight against terrorism. To discuss what these developments mean for Nigeria, the wider West African region, and the global security landscape, we are joined by Moses Omolaiye, Chairman, Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria, who will share his thoughts on the evolving tactics of terrorist groups, the cybersecurity measures needed to counter these threats, and the role technology can play in strengthening national security. It's good to have you in our studio, Mr. Omolaiye.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, the United Nations says terrorist groups are increasingly using drones, cryptocurrencies to strengthen their operations. Is Nigeria confronting this as a present reality, or are we still treating it as a future threat?
I think it's upon us already, because we've seen instances where we have Boko Haram and the likes use drones for like reconnaissance and trying to get military positions for surveillance and all of that. So it's not a future threat. It's upon us as we speak. So we are in the threat already, and like if a stitch isn't saved, and then 99 would you will have more tears on the fabric. So it's not in the future, it's upon us right now.
Well, President Tinubu also says that the executive order harmonizing Nigeria's virtual asset regulation will close loopholes exploited by these terrorists and criminals. Why should Nigerians believe this will succeed despite having this regulation exist several years before now?
So that's a hard pill to swallow for Nigerians, because a lot of times we see where we have decrees, we have policies, but what makes it practicable is not just making the decree or putting the policy in place, is actually it being properly implemented. So until a time where we see results from the decree, we cannot assume that it will just heavily solve the problem.
And what practical effort should Nigerians expect to see in that regard? Okay,
so two things. There probably should be closer monitoring. I know that within the crypto space, the government is trying to contain much more. But beyond that, we need to also put in effort into technical know-how, and again, coordination between our institutions. There must be a coordination between not just government institutions, even with private institutions. Because if there are infractions, how would we know if there isn't proper coordination between these institutions? So there must be proper coordination and upscaling on know-how, and then there must be a clear political will through action to show that we actually want to solve issues like this.
Well, terrorist groups are now combining artificial intelligence, like you mentioned, encrypted communications, drones, and cryptocurrencies. Are we witnessing a new era of warfare where technology is becoming just as dangerous and as it is important?
Oh, yes, because like we know, every era comes with its own adoption. Now we're in an era where there's an adoption of technology, and it's a blessing, but if not properly used, then there's misuse is inevitable. And that is why we need to roll up our sleeves and have not just on paper, but have proper checks and balances. I'll give an instance. If you have people selling drones, or let's say producing drones, for instance, do you actually have a register of people that have bought? Can you actually trace, is it traceable to people that have bought those drones? Now, don't forget that the barrier of entry has reduced. You don't need some astronomical, very high-end drones to, do surveillance and all of that. So even maybe departmental stores, all of that, there should probably be some way to monitor, the sale of those things, so that there can be trails just in case there are suspicions. It will be easier to follow those trails and probably get to where the suspects could be.
The Cyber Crime and ICT Senate Committee is currently on a retreat, and I remember in their the open day of that retreat, the chairman was saying that cybersecurity is just even more important than confronting this conventional security because of all these emerging threats. Should cybersecurity be a core pillar of rather than being treated just like an ICT issue, should it also be treated just as we treat the conventional security?
Yes, because security, regardless of what state it is, because compromise is compromise too, regardless of if it's a physical attack, if it's a virtual attack. So cybersecurity is not, I dare to say, it's not just another IT issue. No, it's in itself a very big component that should be taken seriously. The right research should go in, the right money should be put in, the right technical know-how, the right partnerships. So yes, just the same level of military grade attention that is given to typical security, the same level should be given, because they go hand in hand. Wars are not fought in isolation, and we're seeing these days that wars are not just fought on land, they are fought even in the cyberspace. So it means that probably even more damage can be done than even in some cases physical warfare. So we need to take it as seriously as we take typical security.
Well, commercial drones are becoming cheaper, more accessible, and increasingly sophisticated. Does Nigeria currently have an effective counter capability to protect military bases, airports, and all the critical infrastructures Nigeria has?
To the best of my knowledge, no. And even if we do, it's obviously not at a sustainable scale, or so. To the best of my knowledge, we do not, because if we have something like that, I guess it would be in the public, we would know anyway. But of course, there's still a big lag when it comes to being able to protect spaces technologically, and because we're even looking at places where even the basics are not in place. How much more the higher end things, So we haven't gotten there yet.
Now, how would you advise government to begin to check things like that?
So let's start from the rudiments. The rudiments being that we don't need to go astronomical, like proper surveillance. Again, I still talk about the right training and the right tools. So there's a problem we have in this part of the world a lot of times. We want to tackle solutions with frameworks that are not for us. It's like speaking Spanish where they're speaking Greek. So we need to customize solutions that would solve our problems and not just adopt what another person is using. Yes, you can incorporate, but we know that at certain levels or certain instances, our issues are peculiar to us. So we need to not just adopt, but we need to tailor solutions to our own environment properly.
Beyond military action, how should government regulate the social media? Because that is quite a topic that is coming up now. concerned people are actually championing for the regulation of social media, messaging services and digital financial system without undermining the citizens' privacy and civil liberties.
So I ask a question. Can the two actually coexist? Can you truly regulate to a certain level? So maybe the word control will be a better, in my opinion, than say regulate, because where there's a regulation, a lot of times people would still feel that there's an infringement. So maybe we could better control, maybe better monitoring, and even when it comes to like media and all of that, professionalism should be in the forefront. And gaining citizens' trust. How do you gain citizens' trust? When people know that there isn't an intent or a malicious intent behind what is being done, and when that is done, people know that, okay, it is only when I cross a certain line. Now, who defines those lines that that you cross? Is it a government because what is being said is not palatable, or is it an individual because what is being said about him is not palatable? So the number one way is for the government to be able to get the citizens' trust, to say, okay, we're doing this thing and there should be fairness in play. But for as long as it seems loop-sided, sometimes someone can feel I'm being intimidated, or and all of that. So I think it starts with trust. Where trust is not established, you cannot totally or effectively do something of this nature.
All right, we'll come back to more on this, but that'll be right after the short break. Don't go anywhere. We still have more for you on the program. Stay with us. Strengthen the cybersecurity system to confront present-day realities. And with us is a cybersecurity expert, Mr. Omolaiye. Now, we're speaking about all this, but looking ahead 5 years from now, what worries you the most? Is it terrorists acquiring more sophisticated drones and AI equipment, or government's ability to adapt quickly to confronting these challenges?
I think the willpower to tackle it. I think ability can be built, skill can be built, but where there's no proper willpower, then action would not be taken, properly. So I think that the willpower, because in my opinion, no organization can be bigger than a government. And when the government decides to have the willpower to do something, nothing can stop them. So for me, I think my biggest concern is the willpower from the government to do or to press in this direction.
Well, artificial intelligence can now generate convincing fake videos, clone voices, and automated propaganda. How concerned should Nigerians be that terrorists can now use this kind of innovation and technology to instill fear?
Okay, so we should be concerned. However, that's why we have agencies like the National Orientation Agency. It's on agencies like this to do. So even when it comes to cybersecurity, I say that it starts with awareness. You need to understand how these things work, the dangers, how to prevent, how to detect. So we have like National Orientation Agency and other advocacy groups who should do a mass drive when it comes to awareness around deepfakes and all these issues that we're seeing today. So I think that that's where we should start from, for the populace, proper awareness. So someone sees a video and he knows that it's not everything I see that is real. There are some pointers. Oh, maybe in this video, the person's face is too smooth, some pointers, or you even teach some people how to use certain tools to be able to detect if it's AI or if it's real. It's hard at some point, yes, but if we have rudimentary knowledge, at least a good percentage of people would be able to know that these are fake videos and these are real videos, for instance.
Well, terrorists no longer need banks to move money across borders. How should government balance financial innovation with the need to prevent digital assets from funding violent operations?
Okay, so we're seeing some of that happening already. Regulations around cryptocurrency, which is a good thing. Now, in all of this, as it stands, money being moved via cryptocurrency is still not the biggest form. Mm-hmm. But it's not the biggest form today, doesn't mean it may not be the biggest form tomorrow. And we've been able to see instances where they've been able to trace monies, even monies that moved through crypto, to the sources. So again, it brings us to the point of the right expertise and willpower. Mm-hmm. So the government needs to make sure that as we're improving our financial inclusion and all of that, we need to train people right, and also partner with the right organizations and even with the private sector. I'm a big believer that a lot of times in Nigeria, government bites more than they can chew. In some cases, no fault of theirs. So I'm a big believer in leveraging on people that already have the technical know-how, that already have the infrastructure in place, and government can partner with them to be able to help in this regard.
Well, terrorists do not need to match government's energy in military strength. All they need is just to exploit the technological vulnerabilities. What would you say are the weakest link in our technological system?
So, again, I would say that it starts from awareness. Let's go to the rudiments. Now, we see some agencies have this command center, they have that. But the number one question is, to what end? Why do you have them? Is it just a checklist activity, or do you have an end to why you have those facilities, in place? So we see instances where, again, like I said, adoption just because it's working in country A or country B, and we're not tailoring it to meet, our own needs. So for me, it's quite challenging at that point.
Mm. And Nigeria has the Cyber Crimes Act, the Terrorism Prevention Act, and the Anti-Money Laundering regulations. Do you think that these laws need to be updated to, meet up with these present-day challenges?
So, yes, that's one part. But the question is, even with the existing acts and laws that we have, how much has it done for us? Which still brings us to willpower, like I say. So it's not just having an act, having a policy, having a decree, but how much is the implementation that is key. So we ask ourselves, how much of it has been properly implemented? So updating is one thing, it's a good thing, yes, but if we ask ourselves, what's the success rate with already, what's on ground already, before we even talk about updating to present realities?
Mm. Well, looking ahead, what single investment should Nigeria be making now in terms of technology, legislation, in artificial intelligence, skill development, regional cooperation, and the likes? Okay,
I believe in starting from the rudiments. I always talk about the rudiments because you can't build a skyscraper on the foundation of a duplex. It wouldn't stand. Mm-hmm. So, one, we need to wear our sincerity of purpose on our sleeves, first of all. And when we do that, we need to train the right people in the right areas, and then also have, of course, nothing starts without proper policies and governance frameworks, and make sure that they are properly implemented. We need to look away from, for lack of a better word, politicizing things, whether for individual gain or for whatever. We need to put things in place to train the right people. It's not good enough to just train people. Are they having the right training, first of all? So when we do it like a checkbox activity, you just go and train. Like someone says they're doing a training in cybersecurity, but cybersecurity is it's a very large field, for instance, and then there are different components to it. There are people that will do things around forensics, people do things, even when you look at the drone technology itself, there's the security side, of it, and these are the challenges we're facing. So we need to train right, and the willpower to allow people do their jobs even after they are trained right. We need to make sure that is in place.
All right. Again, what level of intelligence sharing and regional cooperation is needed to make a real difference?
We need to speak one voice. There must be a central point of convergence when it comes to information sharing, starting from the granular, the local to regional. And we don't see that happening at its best at this time. Yes, there's some of it, but we can do a lot better.
And what, if you had the ears of the president today, what would you advise him to do in terms of cybersecurity and strengthening the system?
Remove square pegs from round holes. Let's start from there. When you remove square pegs from round holes, then they would know the direction to take.
And how can Nigerians realistically measure this?
Evidence. So everything is evidence-based. So for instance, at some point, I think last year, we had less reporting around like intrusions to financial incidents, with banks and all of that, but there was more fraud. The only thing that reduced was reporting. However, activity increased. So if someone was, and then proper collaborations. Now, if we had proper convergence with information, then we probably would have been able to pick this, because when you have information like cybersecurity incident information from everywhere, then you can for sure say this is the indices, So that's it. The right collaboration needs to be in place.
Well, there's only much that government can do. It boils down to the institutions. How would you say institutions like the banks, the telecom companies can strengthen their own cyber system, to prevent terrorists from taking advantage of their vulnerabilities?
Okay, so that's why everybody has to be, you have to be abreast with new threats. Every day there are new threats, new possible exploit actors. So institutions have to be abreast, with that, and then also train right, have the right people in the right places. However, government still has a central part to play, which is in the coordination. I do not believe government should implement. Government should oversee and allow institutions implement what they need to implement.
Do you think that enforcing sanctions on some of these institutions where we see laxity would will prompt them to strengthen their systems?
Okay, so I'd say yes and no. Yes. Why I say no is because yes only takes care of one part. We only see the private sector being sanctioned, being fined, but we do not see that happening in the public sector. And those exploits, they're not exempted from the exploits. So until we come to a point of wholesomeness, then yes, it would, in totality, it would help. But if you are only looking at a sector, which is the private sector, I think that in itself is one of our biggest vulnerabilities in Nigeria.
Okay, Nigeria also uses technology. Nigerians in general, how will you say they can protect themselves from also these cyber threats?
Okay, again, awareness. The average individual should be able to have rudimentary cybersecurity awareness. It mustn't be any serious. Even when you go online, you'd see you can learn a lot in 15 minutes. It will shock you. So just the rudiments. How do I keep myself secure? How do I keep my device secure? How do I know when an email is possibly malicious? How do I know what links not to click? Just those things. So it starts from awareness. And when you're aware, like, what you know you can prevent. What you don't know, you're just in oblivion, and that oblivion can lead you to a place you don't want to be.
All right, you speak about awareness, but in terms of awareness on the national level, I'm talking about the National Orientation Agency now, there isn't really much campaign going on in terms of cybersecurity. Do you think it's now time for, the federal and private sector to partner in terms of creating awareness for this cybersecurity?
Yes, if you heard I said earlier that government doesn't have to implement, they can coordinate. So we have the National Orientation Agency. They may say maybe we don't have the manpower, but we can coordinate. We can partner with private institutions, and then we can roll out awareness. So yes, if they partner. So I'll give you an instance. At the Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria, one of the things we do, we go to institutions from secondary schools, from schools and all of that, and because it's not for profit, and we just want people to be aware of cybersecurity, the possible threats and all of that. So yes, as simple as that. You can even make organizations do this as a CSR within their own demography, and it will shock you how far it would go.
And in general, how would you say that we can strengthen cybersecurity in Nigeria today? Just briefly.
Okay, the right coordination among institutions and governments. Yeah, that would help.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions on the